Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Please welcome ALEC National Chairman, West Virginia Senator Patricia Rucker.
Good morning and welcome to the 2025 ALEC States and Nation Policy Summit in beautiful Fort Worth, Texas. My name is Patricia Portas Rucker. I am a senator from the great state of West Virginia, and I am your 2025 National Chair. It is always exciting to be with you at this meeting as we prepare for the year ahead, united in our beliefs of the foundational principles that made this country great: limited government, free markets, federalism. Our momentum is strong. The friends, colleagues, and public servants that are gathered here today are ready to carry the surge of energy and innovation forward into 2026, leading the way and shaping for America's future. Before we dive into today's agenda, I ask that you stand, place your hand on your heart, and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing as we welcome Stephen Schrain from the Fort Worth Police Department to lead us in the national anthem. Stephen, welcome.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Wow. Thank you, Stephen. That was beautiful. I cannot think of a better way to begin this week. Now, as National Chair, I have the privilege of reporting on the work we've accomplished together over the past year. Since the 2024 election, we have seen an explosion of new opportunities to advance the principles of free markets, limited government, and federalism. So much has happened in Washington. The Department of Education is returning education function to the states where it belongs. The 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act was made permanent. But it is in the states where we see the new energy and historic moment leveraged most effectively to enact policies that allow all Americans to flourish. From reducing bureaucratic power to expanding education freedom or fostering economic growth through tax reforms, states are taking winning solutions they develop here and making them a reality, helping individuals, families, and businesses achieve greater freedom and prosperity. But the work is never over, it's only just beginning. 2025 has been a tremendous year, but we want 2026 to be even better. ALEC is here to help make that happen. That is why I'm thrilled to announce the ALEC Essential Policy Solutions for 2026. This publication is a must-have for policymakers looking to make a real impact in the upcoming legislative session. The Essential Policy Solutions for 2026 features more than 170 model policies covering economic competitiveness, election integrity, healthcare, civics education, and more. This is a resource you can carry with you throughout the next year of the best practices and brightest ideas you all have helped develop in our 11 policy task forces. You will find detailed expertise across the policy spectrum for every state legislator, red state or blue state alike. And what better way to take up the charge of good governance than America's 250th coming up? At ALEC, we're doing our part to celebrate this historic moment through the state's 250th campaign, a national effort to highlight the role that states have played in securing liberty, defending constitutional government, and making America the extraordinary nation it is today. Because we believe the best way to honor the 250 years of independence is to remind people where that independence started. and is continued to be maintained, and that is in the states. Before we begin in earnest, I want to remind everyone to download the conference app. You can either find it on your phone or you can use the QR code that's supposed to be showing up on the screen. It has all the schedules for the week, the workshops, the task force meetings, everything. So please make your life easier and just download the app. Now, please welcome Texas Senator Paul Bettencourt to lead us in a moment of prayer.
Thank you, Bishop. A couple quick points. First, if that man is a sergeant, Stephen, I mean, you need to be a sergeant, okay? No corporal can sing that well at 8 o'clock in the morning. And Senator Parker, whose district is excuse me, I think actually Phil is yours, right? Okay. He pointed out to me last night that more visitors go through the Fort Worth stockyards than the Eiffel Tower. Now, don't fact check me. I don't know if that's true. I was just told to say it. Okay. Now, would you please join me, okay, in prayer? Name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Bless us, O Lord, these gifts we're about to receive. Bless our families. Bless this ALEC family as we head into a joyful Christmas season and as we try to walk in your footsteps on this earth. In his name we pray. Amen. And now, let me introduce the governor of the great state of Texas. He's following me here in just a split second. A former Texas Attorney General and State Supreme Court Justice, Governor Greg Abbott, has been a champion of conservative values, leading the great state of Texas to new heights. While in office, Governor Abbott has secured the southern border, unleashed Texas' economy, signed the biggest education freedom bill in the country, and so much more. My personal favorite is he signed 3 budgets that have put $51 billion back into property taxpayers' pockets, aka property tax cuts for our schools, and that's I think my personal favorite of all the bills that he signed. And would you now please turn your attention to the screen and give Texas Governor Greg Abbott a warm welcome, or how about a Texas welcome? Woo!
This is Governor Greg Abbott. Good morning to everyone and welcome to the great state of Texas. I want to extend a very special welcome to the countless state legislators and business leaders and policy experts who travel from all across America to be right here in Fort Worth. I hope that you will experience what makes Fort Worth such a unique part of our state. Its innovative spirit and deep commitment to the values that help to define Texas. Values like freedom, opportunity, and a belief in the power of the individual. For years, ALEC has provided a forum where leaders can exchange ideas, debate solutions, and develop policies that are rooted in principles that help states thrive. Policies like limited government, free markets, and federalism. These trusted solutions, they don't just live on paper. They shape the laws and reforms that impact millions of Americans. In Texas, we've seen what happens when those principles guide your decisions. We've built the strongest economy in the United States. We lead the nation in job creation. We support our law enforcement officers, expand education freedom, and foster an environment where businesses of every size can grow and succeed. I encourage you to use your time here to collaborate, to challenge each other, and to bring forward bold solutions. The conversations that you have here will help to chart a path for our states and the nation for 2026 and beyond. Thank you for your dedication to public service, for the work that you do back home, and for spending this week in Texas. I hope that you enjoy the summit and everything that Fort Worth has to offer. May God bless you all, and may God forever bless the great state of Texas.
Thank you for those inspiring words, Governor. It is always a joy to be in this wonderful state. For many years, Hugh Hewitt has been a dear friend to ALEC, a voice of reason for countless Americans, a lawyer, professor, broadcast journalist, reaching more than 120 American cities every weekday. Hewitt sets the standard for honest journalism and insightful commentary. He has inspired us with his endless curiosity, guided by a love of truth and the principles that make our country great. From his time in the Reagan administration to his illustrious journalistic career, Hewitt has spotlighted the policies that matter. This year, ALEC has had the honor of partnering with Salem Media and the Hugh Hewitt Show to give you cutting-edge policy insights. Many of you may have listened to the insightful conversations Hewitt has had with many of our ALEC members. Well, I'm excited to announce that we have brought Hugh Hewitt's show straight to you. This afternoon, make sure you join us for the Hugh Hewitt live audience experience from 2 to 5 Central, where you will hear from many of your fellow legislators about the great work happening both here at SNPS and in the States. And now, for the man himself, please welcome Hugh Hewitt.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Rucker's been a particularly fine guest over the years on the Hugh Hewitt Show because she knows school choice as well as anyone in this room, and many of you are experts. I just want to say 6 quick things within my 7 minutes. I want to repeat what I said last night. Between Lisa and Jonathan and every staff member over at ALEC's headquarters, you are represented by and led by perhaps the most effective team in the association world in DC. I've been in and out of DC since 1980. My wonderful wife worked for the American Society of Association Executives. I know the world pretty well. Lisa and Jonathan are just simply unmatched in the enthusiasm and joy they bring to their work and to the ideas that they spread. They're committed and they deserve your wholehearted support, and those that support you from the corporate world, the best bang for your buck because they deal in ideas and they win. Having said that, Jonathan is an economist, and he is prone to, of course, work data sets in his favor. So after he took a sharp shot at my Buckeyes last night, I decided I would do my own research. And in this millennium, in other words, since 2000, the record is Ohio State 18 wins, that team up north 7, just to set the record straight. Here's what matters most to me, what I talk to my guests about: school choice. Patricia Rucker and every one of you who are forwarding, whether it's scholarships, whether it's vouchers, however you do what your state does, every child that benefits from that, you shape their life, you make it possible for them to achieve great things. What you are doing in school choice is truly astonishing. Keep it up. It's going to change the generation that my grandchildren are growing up. By the way, Senator Serena, I think, 40 grandchildren. I've got 7. I'm still tired from Thanksgiving. My back still hurts. I don't know how you do it. God bless you, man. Second, redistricting. I know opinions are mixed on this. We're in a fight for America. If you can redistrict, you should redistrict, because the other side is not going to play fair. The other side is playing to win. We are refugees from California that just wiped out, against the interests of the state, Ken Calvert's district. He was going to be chair of appropriations, but they preferred a Democrat seat to the chair of appropriations. That makes no sense. Every legislator in the room knows that makes no sense. That's how they're playing. We have to roll the same way. There are 31 red states. There are 19 blue states. We ought to have the Senate. We ought to have a majority. And I hope, I pray that you listen. Third, most important to me, the affordability crisis has many components. The number one is housing. I was a real estate land use permitting lawyer for 30 years before I retired from that to concentrate on broadcasting. I did it in parallel. The housing market in the United States is one market. Every unit you approve, whether it's a rental unit or a housing unit, improves the affordability of every unit in America. Supply has to be increased. Many of you are permit reform experts. You know what I'm talking about. Keep doing that. Bring more and more houses and apartments to the market, and we will make it more affordable for Americans to grow and thrive and raise children in the communities they want to live in with good schools. Fourth, election integrity. Many of you are working on this. It is simply beyond comprehension that some object to voter ID. Jonathan and I have spent a lot of time on the air talking about this. It matters a great deal to the future of the Republic, so please keep focused on that. My own particular forward-looking approach to ask you to get someone thinking about small modular reactors. Energy is freedom. We make a lot of energy here in Texas, and thank you for that, Texas. But energy is freedom. When we begin to permit, the technology is here. It's being deployed in China. We can build it here, but it's going to require states to welcome small modular reactors. My son-in-law has driven around the entire world with a small modular reactor next to his bed. He's on a carrier off and on. And I'm here to tell you they're safe. We can build them safe. We can build them small. We can power the United States in a way that will drive down the cost of living everywhere. So if you don't know much about small modular reactors, find out about them because they're going to be everywhere in 10 years. Lead that. 3 more. The Montana plan, I think, is a menace. Now, I'm sorry to my Montana friends. One of my closest friends, Jan Gennaro, lives up in Montana. Governor Gianforte is my friend. I love the senators, Steve Daines and the new guy, whose name is escaping me right now. They're good people. The Montana plan that would prohibit corporate donations into politics is, in fact, a stifling of free speech. I don't think it's constitutional. It's not a good idea. Next, Medicaid and entitlement fraud is so vast. I was sitting next to the Michigan people last night. We made peace. The Cowboys and the farmers can't be friends. And I was so astonished that they found $5 billion. And $5 billion. And that is just the beginning. That everyone would do what they did. God bless you all, because we can prove we can get rid of our debt problem. And then finally, and this one is difficult. If you saw the story last week about the University of California, San Diego, they had to triple their remedial math and literature offerings because kids are arriving at one of the finest universities in America. UCSD is a great university, not able to do 7th grade math. They cannot read at high school level. The problem is we're not teaching it anymore, and to the extent that you can bring remedial education back up to speed, read and learn to add. That is all we ask of our elementary schools. Nothing else. Don't need DEI, don't need CRT. They got to read. They got to be able to do math. Finally, last time I was asked to talk to the Republican Senate conference, someone always cancels, then my phone rings. I always know I'm the backup speaker. We spent 2 hours talking about name, image, and likeness. And they asked me what to do. I said, nothing. Ohio State has a first mover advantage. But that's not really what I believe. You have to figure it out, or you got to ask the feds to come in and figure it out, because it's destroying college sports, which is one of the few things where red and blue can meet and enjoy a tailgate, other than ALEC. It's great to be a nonpartisan group of experts. Thank you for having me. I look forward to seeing some of you on the show later today. I'm with the program, Senator Rucker, and thank you.
Please welcome back ALEC National Chairman, West Virginia Senator Patricia Rucker.
Like that beat. Thank you, Hugh. We are all looking forward to your show later today, and your voice is invaluable. And I, for one, completely agree with those things you say we need to get done. Here at ALEC, we not only pride ourselves in bringing together legislators from across the 50 states, but also business leaders and entrepreneurs who carry the expertise needed to craft policy that will unleash economic prosperity and opportunity for all Americans. That is what ALEC's public and private partnership is all about. We debate, we have disagreements, but through this, we develop the best policy solutions in the nation. ALEC thrives on these debates. But there are many things we can all agree on, like the threat we face from the web of proxy advisors, accreditors, and international organizations holding American businesses hostage, pushing companies in a direction that goes against the interests of their customers. This is an issue that corporations, small businesses, legislators, conservatives, and liberals have come together to address. And who better to unravel this web than Executive Director of Consumers Research, Will Hild. Yes. Will Hild wakes up every day with a burning desire to protect the freedom of American consumers, investors, and workers. He understands that economic decisions belong in the hands of families, not proxy advisors or politically motivated accreditors. Thanks to Will and consumers research, business leaders are waking up to the influence of foreign proxy advisors and are charting their own course to success. For too long, American businesses have been living by rules established by companies not even based in America, companies that don't have our same work ethic or creative spirit. Thanks to Will's efforts, American corporations are resisting manipulation, swinging back to neutral, and refuse to be taken advantage of. Please join me in giving a warm ALEC welcome to Will Hild.
Well, thank you, Patricia, for those warm words and introduction. Whenever I'm asked to address ALEC in the morning, I'm sort of split between whether they're hoping that I will get everyone's blood flowing early in the morning, or they're just thinking that if I say anything too crazy, at least only the early risers will hear it. So I'm hoping it's the former. I don't think I'll say anything too divisive today, which is rare for me. Um, as Patricia noted, I run consumers research, but I'm also proud to serve on the ALEC Private Advisory Committee. And one of the advantages is that I get to learn before anybody else how healthy and growing this august, vital institution is. And I'm excited that we have a lot of new folks from both the private and the public sector here today. Many of you will have no idea who the heck I am, and that's probably a good thing. And unfortunately, a few of you might, because a big part of our mission is to publicly and vociferously call out companies who go woke to distract from their mistreatment of their customers or misdeeds in the market. But the good news is that's not why I'm up here today. Today, I want to talk to you about something I think we can all agree in, everyone in this room. In a properly functioning free market, decisions are made by the people affected by them. That means customers, shareholders, and the employees and management who operate those companies. Those are the people who directly benefit or suffer from the decisions that are made or the actions that are taken. The people whose standard of living, livelihoods, careers, retirements, and futures are at stake. However, over the past few decades, a number of trends have led to an ever-increasing amount of power being held in the hands of a few players who have little, if any, skin in the game. Two of them in particular, ISS and Glass Lewis, foreign-owned so-called proxy advising firms who've made their living opining over your operations, second-guessing your decisions, pushing overtly racial and sexually discriminatory policies onto your board makeups, and often siding with radical left-wing activists who seek to drag your companies into divisive political issues by force of shareholder proposal. And that's before I even get into the inherent conflict with the interests of their consulting divisions. My message today is that the one thing all of us should be able to unite around is that the ultimate judge of the success or failure of a company, of whether its boards deserve re-election, of whether its executives deserve their compensation packages or bonuses, must be the customers who decide whether or not to buy the products and the actual shareholders whose money is at stake. Not some bureaucrats in Ontario or Berlin, not some wayward woke asset managers issuing diktats from their ivory tower penthouses, not the fakes and the finks and the freeloaders who make their bones giving bad advice based on spurious logic and a lack of financial analysis, which ISS and Glass Lewis just admitted to in a legal filing here in the state of Texas. The free agency of shareholders, consumers, and staff, that has what made America the greatest economic power ever to exist on the earth. And I hope over the next few years and in the coming legislative sessions, you will join Consumers Research in telling ISS and Glass Lewis that their time of foisting their personal politics on everyone else, smuggled as voting advice, are over. Whatever disagreements we may have or will have amongst us in this room, they must be adjudicated by the people who buy the products, the citizens whose 401ks and pensions are at stake, and the executives whose careers live and die with the consequences of their decisions. As usual, it's been ALEC members and Consumer Champion Award members, or award winners, I should add, leading the way. I'm proud to note that Senator Brian Hughes, right here in Texas, led the passage of a bill earlier this year that requires ISS and Glass Lewis, when they disagree with management, to disclose when non-monetary factors were included in their advice. This is a crucial and needed reform. Almost every ISS and Glass Lewis client is themselves a fiduciary to someone else. So when they fall down on their job, it causes a chain reaction of consumers being betrayed. This law is also an asset to Texas' recent push to become an attractive alternative to other states' increasingly burdensome and woke corporate governance regime. My apologies to our friends from Delaware. This law helps protect companies based in Texas from interference by those proxy advising firms so they can focus on their one and only mission. That is returning investment to shareholders by serving their customers. American corporate managements must be allowed to win or lose, succeed or fail without the permission and micromanagement of an aloof, inexperienced duopoly that, despite moving upwards of 30% of some companies' votes, doesn't own a single share of any of them and doesn't suffer the consequences when they're wrong. We suffer, not them. Consumers research has always and will always strengthen and amplify the ability of consumers to make their decisions heard and to push back against companies who they feel are betraying them. But we will also work with anyone who will join us to defend the ability of companies to serve those customers as best they can. Anyone making a buck distorting that relationship is our enemy. And I hope that they will become the enemy of everyone in this room. Now, lastly, some of you in the public sector who may not have interacted with ISS and Glass Lewis are probably wondering, what the heck is he talking about? What the heck is a proxy advisor? And what could have possibly done? What it could have possibly done to make this guy this angry this early in the morning? If that's the case, then I really appreciate the opportunity that ALEC provides for us to brief you on this important issue. So please catch me either today or tomorrow. And thanks again to ALEC for bringing us all together so we can work together on these important issues.
Please welcome back ALEC National Chairman, West Virginia Senator Patricia Rucker.
Our thanks to Will for the work he's done to expose and roll back the harmful impacts of the proxy advisor system. ALEC is proud to partner with American business leaders to continue fostering the best economy in the world. We want our corporate partners to be strong, and just as a strong corporate community is vital to the success of our country, so are strong families. This year, ALEC's Essential Policy Solutions for 2026 features several model policies meant to promote family rights and keep children safe. Defending family rights helps ensure that every child grows up in a supportive and a nurturing environment where their emotional and physical needs are met. ALEC adopted these models because protecting children from harm is essential for their healthy development and for building stronger, safer communities. Sixto Cancel is the founder and CEO of Think of Us, a former foster youth. He has built one of the most innovative organizations in the social sector, mobilizing governments to redesign policy and practice, advancing kinship and lasting family connections, addressing the challenges young people face when aging out of foster care, and ensuring lived experience drives system reform. His TED Talk on transforming foster care has been viewed over 1 million times worldwide. Recognized as a White House Champion of Change, Forbes 30 Under 30 honoree, Ashoka Fellow, and a Schmidt Innovation Fellow, Sixto is leading a national movement to transform child welfare into a child and family well-being system. Please welcome to the stage Sixto Cancel.
Good morning, everyone. Oh, we still not awake enough, huh? Good morning. It is such an honor and a blessing to be here to talk about such an important topic. And I wanted to talk a little bit about how I come to the work. I entered foster care as an 11-month-old baby. At 9, I was adopted into what was supposed to be a forever family, but it wasn't a loving home. I ended up couch surfing. The system didn't believe I was being abused, so at 15, I taped a recorder to my chest, collected evidence, and re entered foster care. Being a foster kid taught me that family was for other people. You learn to carry your life in a trash bag and smile so that you don't seem ungrateful. Even without abuse, foster care is rough. You're placed with strangers and expected to become family, and if you don't fit in, you've moved again. New home, new school, new rules, new everything. Those experiences shaped me to start my nonprofit, Think of Us. But first, I want to tell you about my brother. I met him for the first time when I was 14. He moved out of the projects in hopes of a better life. He hated what was happening to me and promised to get me out of foster care. For the first time, I believe I would live with family. The state's response, he had to become a licensed foster parent. He needed an apartment that met state standards, required training, paperwork, and more. Without it, there was no legal path, no financial help. He was in high school, working part time, so he went back to the dangerous projects to save money. His worst fear became our reality. He was killed. Financial support, simpler forms, and one rule change could have kept him alive. Hope without resources is cruel. I understood then I wouldn't be adopted or placed with kin. I aged out. In college, I built the first version of Think of Us, an app to help foster youth build a transition plan for life after high school. That evolved into an online resource navigation program, connecting youth and relatives to housing, food, and support. Today, it has impacted over 23,000 people, the kind of help my brother needed. But services are not enough. So 5 years ago, we invented a model we called proximate policy. The model supports decisions and policy initiatives already happening by others. Rather than creating our own agenda, we reinforce other system reform efforts by bringing in lived experience, data, tech, and real world insights from people doing the work at the exact moment leaders need that information to make critical decisions. We do this with state child welfare directors and appointed federal leaders by conducting rapid learning when needed, testing new models, and convening lived experience and other stakeholders, which help leaders drive reform with clarity and confidence. That work led us to build the nation's largest database of lived experience in child welfare 51,000 voices. Here's one example. One recurring theme we heard was that a federal rule was making it difficult for children to be placed with family on day one. In partnership with others, we push for new kin specific licensing rules and standards that empower states to get rid of inefficiencies and use money differently. Things that would have made it possible for me to live with my brother. And states move quickly. In just 18 months, 18 states submitted or received approval for their plans to use these new federal options to prioritize kin placement. A few years ago, my sister called and said my father's side of the family was having a reunion. I had never met them, they didn't know I existed. I ran to the park in Harlem and found them. They were kind, welcoming, and curious. About 90 minutes in, everything changed. I learned I had 4 aunts who had been fostering and adopting longer than I had been alive. All I can do was reach into my pocket, pull out my phone, and GPS to my last foster home, 58 miles away. My entire childhood, I was 58 miles and a few questions away from being raised by people who could have loved me. My story is not unique, but it doesn't have to be this way. We can find homes for every child, but before I tell you about the man on that mission to fix this, I just want to say thank you for listening to my story. Thank you. It is my pleasure to welcome Dr. Alex Adam, Assistant Secretary for the Administration for Children and Families. Before this role, he served as Idaho's Director of Health and Welfare. His leadership there led the child welfare system to prevent unnecessary placements into foster care. He worked with the legislator to expand extended foster care to 23. I aged out at 23. It was enough support and the right amount of time for me to work and learn and build life beyond survival. With not enough foster homes, too many of us spend nights sleeping in offices, sleeping in hotels, not in homes. When he started, he just had 54 foster homes for every 100 foster youth who was in his system. But by cutting red tape, activating folks in your role and others, he drove one of the most impactful foster home recruitment turnarounds in this country, reaching 104 foster home for every 100 children who is in his system. Now, just 60 days into his federal appointment, he is bringing that same urgency and clarity to the entire nation. He is focused on something that is simple and powerful. Find families when we can, prevent unnecessary placements into foster care, place children with safe relatives, and recruit a home for every child. If we answer this call, it is possible in the short term that we can find a home for every child. It is my honor and my pleasure to invite Dr. Alex Adams.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to get out of the Beltway for a morning, and thank you, Sixto, for sharing your powerful story. We can't change what happened, but we can certainly make sure we can change things moving forward and prevent that from happening to anyone else again. My journey to ACF was through state government. At ACF, for those of you that don't know, the Administration for Children and Families, we run about 60 programs, $70 billion. Most of it courses through state governments, through your budgets, through your state HHS agency. We run the block grants for social services, for child care subsidy, for TANF, and then most near and dear to my heart, funding for foster care, adoption, and guardianship assistance. Coming from the state lens, I look at these programs from a state perspective. And if I could get the slides up, please. If we could go to the, if you could go back one to the first slide. This picture is how I viewed many of the programs that ACF runs from the state perspective. What this shows is this was a mural of pandas frolicking through a field at a Chinese restaurant. Chinese restaurant goes out of business. A new owner takes over, converts it to a Mexican restaurant, decides to keep the mural, but paint sombreros on the pandas. Too many of our programs, federal or otherwise, are just painting sombreros on the pandas. It might have made sense at one point in time, but they layer regulation on top of regulation, sub-regulatory guidance document on top of sub-regulatory guidance document, policy change after policy change, and at some point they no longer make sense. What I'm trying to do at ACF is look at, does the mural make sense or do we need to repaint? In my first 2 months, we've been doing a lot of benchmarking. I've got 43,000 pages of sub-regulatory guidance. That's 42,900 more than I want to end with. I've got $1.1 billion of paperwork burden I impose on the states, 32 million hours of man hours just filling out paperwork, most of which my agency does nothing with. If I can get those burdens down, I can return $1.1 billion to the taxpayers and deploy those dollars to more productive use than they're currently doing. Where I'm going to spend my disproportionate time and energy, besides barbecuing the administrative burden and dismantling the administrative state, is I'm going to spend my disproportionate time and energy on ensuring a home for every child for all the reasons that Sixto aptly described. You might have seen in recent weeks, President Trump signed an executive order called Fostering the Future. This was championed heavily by his wife, our First Lady, Melania Trump, who has made foster care improvement, especially for older youth, a core part of her personal advocacy. The president's executive order is a whole of government system-wide reform asking many agencies to do many different things. I'm but one small part of that, but the component we're going to provide is focusing states' time and energy on getting a home for every child. How I got to that is when I ran a state child welfare system, I was perplexed by this trend. Before running the state child welfare system, I was our state budget director. So I look at things through a very budget heavy lens. This was my curve of the number of foster kids, peaked in 19 and was on a decline. My guess is every one of your states has a similar pattern. We've been on a nationwide decline in the number of foster kids coming into the system for a number of different reasons. But when you overlay the budget, the blue line, the number of kids and the budget generally aligned through 2019. And then I had the hockey stick graph of doom, the logarithmic growth in my budget post 2019. Why were the number of kids going down while the costs were going up? And it was because we, like most states, started to have a shortage of foster homes. When we didn't have enough foster homes to care for kids, we started putting them in non-traditional settings, Airbnbs, short-term rentals. We started overusing congregate care, particularly out-of-state congregate care. It's costly and it leads to the worst outcomes for children. This is one of the few areas where the best outcomes of children and your best outcomes for your budget director's blood pressure perfectly align. So what we did, similarly, instead of painting more sombreros on the pandas and saying, I'm going to, double down, we went back to basics and said, what are our cost drivers? What is driving cost in the system? And there's 4 cost drivers. These are Idaho's numbers, so you can overlook the numbers, but the concept is going to hold in any state. Number one thing that drives your budget is how many people are coming through your front door. Too many child welfare directors take the position that I don't control my front door, courts control my front door. That's not necessarily true. You can control your front door with the practices, your policies, and in the infrastructure that you have for prevention. The more you can do to prevent kids coming into the foster care system with robust mental health supports, substance use disorder supports, oversight, and other things like that, you can flip the script. In Idaho, I had 85% of my kids coming into placements, 15 in prevention. I said I wanted to flip that script and have 85% kept in their home, kept with their family, provide effective supports because children do best with their family. Foster care should be the tool of last resort. When you cross that iron curtain into fostering care, there is permanent, irreparable harm both to the family and the child. It should be the tool of last resort. When the child comes into the system, your next budget driver is how quickly they exit the system. How quickly they exit the system is a function of both length of stay and placement decision. Where you place them is one of the most important decisions you make. As Sixto said, every study shows children do best with family. Family broadly defined as kin, so relatives as well as trusted loved ones, Sunday school teachers, football coaches, and others. If you place kids with kin and trusted loved ones, they maintain religious traditions, cultural traditions. They do better, they reunify faster or find permanency faster at lower cost. In Idaho, we're very conservative budget-wise, but I paid $16 a day for kin or for non-relative foster care. If a child ended up in a congregate care setting because I didn't have kin or I did not have a non-relative to care for them, I paid $385 a day. I was paying orders of magnitude higher for worst outcomes. So we engaged in a whole host of policy reform, stroke of pen efforts, rapid cycle innovation to cut through red tape. We got all of the red tape out of the way for licensing. I don't care if their rabbits are up to date on their vaccine schedule. Are they willing to open their heart and their home to a child? I don't care if they have a 4-foot fence around every body of water. In rural Idaho, there's no canal that has a 4-foot fence abutting the entire canal. What message are we sending? I opened an office of faith-based initiatives to go church to church, synagogue to synagogue, house of worship to house of worship, to recruit new foster families. This is an area where we boiled it down to a ratio, the number of homes to kids, and I could make progress on both sides of that ratio. I could get my number of kids coming into the system down through prevention. I could get my numerator of number of homes up through kin, deregulate, deregulate, deregulate. As Sixto said, we made significant progress in a very short period of time. Nationally, the numbers are frankly bleak. For every 100 kids coming into the system, we have 57 homes to care for them. We can do better and we must do better. And I can assure you, from the federal perspective, under the leadership of President Trump, First Lady Melania Trump, Secretary Kennedy, I will put every ounce of energy and strength into this to get the red tape out of the way, to empower states to take on initiatives that will improve their number of foster homes relative to the number of foster kids. And I invite you to join us in this journey to help us ensure a home for every child. Thank you all for what ALEC does.
Please welcome back Patricia Rucker.
Thank you, Assistant Secretary Adams. These last two topics, proxy advisors pushing ESG and family rights, really capture the breadth of issues we take on at ALEC. If you were inspired to learn more about these issues, directly after this session, you can join either the workshop on ESG and the new legal battlefield in Ballroom 4, or the Safe at Home Strategies to Prevent Child Abuse and Neglect workshop in Ballroom 5. And following those, there's a lot more. Look on the screen, hope it shows up, for our full schedule, or like I've told you before, it's on the app. As we head into today's workshops and task force meetings, please stay engaged. The work you will do here will help build solutions back home. And download that app for specific agenda details, and remember that your voice matters. Thank you for your leadership, your commitment, and let's continue fighting for the principles that keep America strong. We'll see you all back here for lunch at 11:50.